Hi, folks. This is Mark by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D., for the Institute for Dialectical Meta-Realism. I have decided that rather than carry those 2-liter bottles of cola, I would instead use a cup with a straw. I think that looks better. And I guess sitting in front of a camera, pouring this liquid down my mouth does not look very professional. So I think this is a better or more professional thing to do, like this. It also tastes quite good. That's Fresca. Um, Gave them a commercial. I wanted to talk about what happened at the University of Texas at Austin, which is abbreviated in this article at UT Austin. And it is very sad, very, very sad. Whatever one thinks about the situation in Gaza, whether one is a Zionist or, like me, an anti-Zionist, it is no excuse for exhibiting or displaying anti-Semitism. The two are not the same. Some Zionists would like to conflate them, but I will not. And so when a person stands on a street and yells at Jews, whatever their beliefs, to go back to Germany, that should simply not be tolerated. Now, what not be tolerated means, I have no idea. Am I calling for their arrest? No. I mean, they have freedom of speech, I guess. But that's so despicable, so despicable. What I think should be done, to be honest, is that photographs should be taken of these individuals, and those photographs should be displayed on social media. So at least the people who did it will have to pay for the consequences of their actions. They will have to live with the consequences of their actions. Now, whether they will care, I don't know. Maybe they will be proud to see their faces on Instagram or on YouTube or on Facebook or on Twitter. I have no idea. But regardless, that's what I think should be done. These people yelling, go back to Germany. I guess that means go back to Germany and be slaughtered in World War II era concentration camps. I can't understand why anyone in the 21st century would say such a thing. And yet, that is precisely what happened. And given the divisiveness of modern day politics in the 21st century, I don't think we should be surprised. I mean, I am angry at it. It makes me really, really angry. Surprised? No, I'm not surprised. I wish I could say I were surprised. I genuinely do, but I'm not surprised. I have seen too much to be surprised, and I imagine that most of you have as well. But let me put on my spectacles and go to this article. Believe it or not, this comes from Fox News Channel. I would not ordinarily read anything from Fox News, but the article looked reasonable. There are some things in it that made me angry, especially one thing, and that one thing in particular I will point out, which is toward the beginning of the article. But what the heck? It's in Fox News, so why not read it? Why not read from it? And it's up to you to make your decision and decide what to make of the article. Here is the headline: Jewish students at the University of Texas say escalating anti-Semitism is spiraling into pure, quote unquote, Jew hatred. You know, I hate that term, Jew hatred. Why can't they say Jewish hatred? I have even heard Jews use that term. And as someone of a Jewish background, I don't like that. Taking the word Jew, which is a noun, and using it as an adjective strikes me as hateful. But why would somebody who is Jewish do that? I have no idea. But the term Jew hatred, it's not the first time I've seen it. And I doubt it will be the last time, sadly, in our present climate. But for Jews to say Jew hatred, literally incomprehensible to me. The subheading of the article: multiple students at UT Austin said that they were approached and told to go back to Germany. Dateline, Kenzel Tietz, Fox News. And now I will read from you for you portions of the article. As students chanted, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," Jewish students spoke with Fox News Digital about the anti-Semitism and extreme anger they have experienced on campus during this week's protests. Hundreds of protesters gathered on campus at the UT Austin on Wednesday to participate in an unruly anti-Israel protest. Let me pause there. Unruly. So here, Fox News, you use the term unruly. I watched portions of your coverage of the Capitol insurrection in Washington, D.C., and I never once recall you referring to those people as unruly. And why is that? Because you never did. So why are you calling people who are participating in an anti-Zionist protest unruly? Well, in a sense, I'm asking a question that really cannot be answered. After all, it is Fox News. That is the one thing that I mentioned that I would point out that really, really disturbed me, referring to this protest as unruly. What do you expect a protest to be? Do you expect a protest to be orderly? Protests, by their nature, are unruly, if you want to use that term. But calling it that, singling out this protest as being unruly, is simply immoral. Nearly 60 people were arrested, but criminal charges were dropped against 46 of the 57 protesters. UT Austin joined universities like Columbia and Yale, as well as the University of Southern California, USC, where anti-Israel protests have made headlines in recent days. UT Austin said the protest was organized by the Palestine Solidarity Committee, which it says seeks to paralyze the operations of universities across the country. Pause. Good. And I say that as a retired college professor and previously a university professor. Good. Paralyze the operations of universities across the country. If that's what it takes. If that's what it takes to give the administrators of those universities some degree of moral compass, if that's what it takes to encourage those administrators to come out and join the protesters, just as many faculty have, then good. Paralyze the universities across the country. Back to the article. Amid the protest, an anti-Jewish student could be heard telling a Jewish student, and I won't read the language, and multiple students told Fox News Digital that they had been approached and told to go back to Germany. Comparing the Austin Police Department and Israeli Defense Forces to the KKK. I am selectively editing portions of this that to me are beyond offensive. Levy, a Jewish student who wore a kippah, which is a yarmulke. Kippah is the Hebrew word. Yarmulke is the Yiddish word. It is the skull cap that is worn by religious Jews. And an Israeli flag over his shoulders told Fox News Digital Wednesday that the protest was made up of pro-Hamas individuals, but expressed his gratitude to law enforcement for making sure everyone remained relatively peaceful. What could one expect besides that? A pro-Israel protester calling fellow Jews who happen to be anti-Zionist, pro-Hamas individuals. How shameful. How shameful. How shameful. Have they not learned anything from what happened in Nazi Germany during World War II, when there were standards introduced as to who was Jewish and who was not? Have they not heard that? You know, tell you a story. I had a student maybe 4 years ago when I was obviously still a professor, and part of me said that I should have shut the student up in a polite way by asking the student to come out into the hall and telling the student that the student had no right to say what she was saying to me. She was a religious Jew. I was making statements against Zionism and against Israel. And I also said that I came from an Ashkenazi Jewish family. She accused me of being a liar. She said, no, there is no way that you could be from a Jewish family and hold the views that you do. And so I responded to her and I said, look, we are here in the Midwest, in Overland Park, Kansas. Jews in this part of the country and Jews in New York City are generally fairly different. Jews in New York City tend to be relatively secular. I don't know that much, I said, about the Jewish community in this area, but from everything I have heard, it is relatively conservative. It is not secular like most Jews are in New York. She kept on protesting and protesting and protesting. I let her do it, partially because I think she was making a fool out of herself, and other students literally started laughing at her, which I found amusing. Just as I did not shut her up, I did not shut the students who were laughing at her up either. She never asked me to, but if she would have, I would have said, well, if you don't want them to laugh at you, then maybe you should stop talking. I probably would have found some more sensitive way to say that, but still I would have gotten my point across as best I can. This Zionist Jewish student continued, we have seen a few acts of violence against the officers, he said, for them. I've seen a lot of angry people. I've seen a lot of people that have been crying. I've heard a lot of Jew hatred. This is a Jewish Zionist using the term Jew hatred. I don't call it anti-Semitism anymore. I think that is sugarcoating it. It's Jew hatred when a girl walks up to me and says, you should go back to Germany. Well, no, nobody should say that. So if somebody indeed said that to you, and to be honest, I would not take you as a reliable source, but I will admit people get angry at times, especially at political rallies, and will sometimes say things that they probably should not have said. And who knows why this person said it. But nevertheless, if he is right, and if this student said that, that student should be properly dealt with, and I would actually say yell back at. I would literally yell back at that student for saying that. That is not an acceptable response. One can be disagreeing on the issue of Zionism without telling other Jews to go back to Nazi Germany. So embarrassing, just so embarrassing. Living in this despicable country, the United States, where there is no sense of human decency anymore. Every time they protest, it's going to make me louder. This is that Zionist student again. It's going to make me prouder to be a Jew. And I'm not going to go home. They're not going to scare me, Levy added. I know the university administration has our backs. Oh, yeah, they do. In ensuring that Jews feel safe on college campuses. What he means is that Zionists feel safe on college campuses. Not that Jews feel safe, but Zionists feel safe, because it doesn't matter whether those Zionists are Jews, Christians, Muslims, or anyone else. The administration would inevitably have their backs, because that's where they are. That's where we as a country are right now. We are living at a time that I would never have imagined we would have been living in. And yet here I am. Here I am as a witness. Sadly, not an eyewitness yet, but a witness to these times. And I honestly wish I were not. I do not want to see this. I've seen a lot of pro-Hamas chants. I've heard a lot of them. Good. What's wrong with chanting pro-Hamas? There is a misconception in the US that Hamas is a terrorist organization. Hamas is an organization which was elected by Gazans. It is the Israelis that called Hamas a terrorist organization. Hamas is not opposed to Jews. It is opposed to Zionism. And so I see nothing wrong with pro-Hamas chants. I hope that the people chanting them are chanting them because they have an understanding that Hamas is not anti-Jewish, and not that they are chanting them because they themselves are anti-Jewish. But who knows? I'm ready for this to be over. I'm ready for Jew hatred to not have a place on our campus, he concluded. I'm glad law enforcement and the administration are taking the correct steps to ensure that Jew hatred has no place here at the University of Texas. I do obviously support the right to protest, no matter what, he said. Oh, yeah? It doesn't sound like it, buddy. It does not sound like it. It certainly does not sound like it to me. If you supported the right of these people to protest, you would not have said what you have said up until now. So I do not believe him. Sir, you are a liar. You do not support the right to protest, as you say, no matter what. Not no matter what. But it's getting a little anti-Semitic. And of course, it's not how it should be going. Zachary, a Jewish student, told Fox News Digital Media that he was counter-protesting to represent Israel and stand in solidarity with the Jewish people. It's hurtful, you know. No, I don't know. Anti-Semitic rhetoric is being spread throughout, he said, We hear the chants and things like that. It's really tough to hear. Oh, I'm sorry. But it's important that we stand here peacefully and share information and be willing to have discussions with individuals. You mean like those discussions that those Jewish people in tanks had with the Palestinians when they were mowing down their homes and slaughtering them? Where were those discussions? As far as I know, there were none. There were none. But yeah, it's disheartening to hear those anti-Israel chants. We go to a school with such a great education and with such a great system, and this rhetoric is still being spread around campus. You know, buddy, again, that's called free speech. You said you support free speech, and yet you condemn rhetoric that you don't like, rhetoric, meaning free speech you disagree with. Obviously, this person does not support free speech. Americans, in general, I think, like to fancy themselves as supporting free speech. I mean, that's a part of the Constitution, right? So saying you do not support free speech is simply not seen as being a very good thing to say here. But there are a lot of people who oppose free speech when the speech is being made by people that they regard as their enemies. And to this guy, clearly, these anti-Zionist Jewish protesters are his enemies. The Texas Department of Public Safety was observed making arrests while protesters chanted, "Pigs go home." The protesters attempted to set up a few tents before police intervened. Republican Governor Greg Abbott denounced the protests as lawless and anti-Semitic on X, Twitter. Not anti-Semitic. How can you, Greg Abbott, my governor, denounce the protests of Jews against anti-Zionism as anti-Semitic? There are some people, I think, who are not aware of the history of Zionism in the US and don't realize that throughout the history of Zionism, there have always been Jews who opposed it. Anti-Zionism is nothing new among Jews. It is nothing new at all. Continuing, Abbott said, these protesters belong in jail. That's my governor. People protesting against Zionism and in favor of Palestinians, according to Governor Abbott, belong in jail. Anti-Semitism, he said, will not be tolerated in Texas, period. Students joined in hate-filled anti-Semitic protests. In hate-filled anti-Semitic protests at any public college or university in Texas should be expelled. My question, I guess, for Governor Abbott would be, and what precisely do you define as anti-Semitism? I would assume that to Governor Abbott, anti-Zionism is also anti-Semitism. So I don't think that it would really matter to him. Remember, this article is published by the Fox News channel, which is why I wanted to read it. UT Austin told Fox News Digital early Wednesday afternoon that it does not tolerate disruptive protests and that evening university president Jay Hartzell released a statement about the protest activity, calling it a challenging day. Whatever. We have witnessed much activity we do not normally experience on our campus, and there is understandably a lot of emotion surrounding these events, Hartzell wrote. Today, our university held firm, enforcing our rules while protecting the constitutional right to free speech. No, you did not. No, you did not. By allowing those cops to come onto campus and arrest anti-Zionist protesters, this guy claims that he was protecting free speech. Quite to the contrary, Mr. Hartzell or Dr. Hartzell, you are not protecting free speech. You are protecting the Zionists. And that's all. Only the Zionists. He continued, peaceful protests within our rules. And what are those rules precisely? Are acceptable, he added. Breaking our rules and policies and disrupting others' ability to learn are not allowed. Pause. So, are not anti-Zionist protests learning activities? I think so. I think so. I would regard them as a learning activity. It is a way for students, perhaps students who were not aware that there were Jews who actually opposed Zionism, to become aware of it. So, yeah, is it a learning activity? Yes. Is it a part of the curriculum of UT Austin? No, but so what? There are a lot of things which happen, which are unanticipated, which can become, nevertheless, learning activities, like 9/11. No one expected 9/11, and yet for the next few months, that is basically all that we talked about in our classes. It was a learning activity. We are grateful for the countless staff members and state and university law enforcement officers. See, he's praising the cops. He's praising the cops who arrested the anti-Zionists. He's praising the cops. The University of Texas will continue to take necessary steps so that all of our university functions proceed without interruption. And that is the portion of the article that I wanted to read. The rest of it are comments by readers. There is nothing really much for me to add to what was said there. It's kind of distasteful, disgusting. I can think of other words to describe it, which I won't use. But regardless, the fact that Fox News is saying this pleases me, because that tells me that Fox News is afraid. Fox News is a rabidly pro-Zionist network. Now, for that matter, so are CNN and MSNBC, but not to the same degree as Fox News Channel. And so, writing an article like this makes me happy, because if Fox News is afraid, I feel less afraid. I feel comforted. And so, go ahead, Fox News. Keep on attending these demonstrations around the country. Keep on attacking these anti-Zionist Jews. Go ahead. Keep on doing it. Keep on defending university administrators who are Zionists and are willing to attack anti-Zionist Jews. And see what becomes of your network. See how many viewers you have a year or 5 or 10 years from now. See what kind of record you will have, and how people will look back upon what you did. And obviously the answer will be not a damn thing. For the time being, this has been Mark, by Mark A. Foster, Ph.D., for the Institute for Dialectical Meta-Realism. Have a pleasant day and an even better day tomorrow.